If you're listening, please just don't dismiss this like everyone else has. I know how it sounds. I know how crazy I must look right now, typing this out in the dark while the only sound in this apartment is the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak in the walls. But I swear to you, I'm not making this up. I can't afford for you to roll your eyes, click away, and move on like the others did. Because if you do, if you ignore this, then no one will know what really happened here. And maybe, by the time you hear this, it'll already be too late for me. It's my roommate. No, let me rephrase that. The thing I live with, it isn't human. I've tried telling people before. Friends, family, even one of my professors back when I thought I was just stressed out of my mind. Do you know what they all said? Get some rest. You're imagining things. It's probably just anxiety. God, I wanted them to be right. I wanted it to be all in my head. But you can't argue with the way someone looks at you when they think you're insane. The little half smile, the slow nod, the kind that says just humor him and maybe he'll calm down. That's the worst part, being alone in the truth. Because the more I watch, the more I listen, the more I realize I'm not just unlucky. I'm trapped. I'm stuck with something that wears my roommate's face, borrows his voice, and laughs at his own jokes. But it isn't him. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. And the part that keeps me awake at night? I can't figure out how long it's been pretending. I haven't slept in 3 nights. Every time I close my eyes, I see it. The way it moves when it thinks I'm not paying attention. The way its skin twitches like it doesn't fit quite right. The way it watches me when it thinks I'm not looking. Sometimes I catch it smiling. Not a warm, human smile. A stretching of lips, too wide, too long, like it's practicing an imitation it hasn't mastered. There's something else, too. The sounds. At night, when the apartment goes silent, I hear wet noises. Breathing that isn't his. Scraping, like nails against drywall. Once, I woke up to hear my name whispered, but it wasn't in his voice. It was something layered beneath, like 2 throats speaking at once. I can't keep this to myself anymore. I can't carry this weight, not knowing when it's going to drop the mask. Because one day soon, I think it's going to stop pretending. And when it does, I don't know what happens to me. So listen carefully. Don't write this off as another late-night internet rant. This is real. I'll tell you everything. How I ended up sharing a room with something inhuman. How the little cracks in its disguise started to show. How my life spiraled into this waking nightmare. But you need to believe me. Because if you don't, then you'll never see it coming when it's your turn. Here's how it all started. When I first moved into the apartment, everything felt normal. Boring, even. And boring was exactly what I wanted. You have to understand, I wasn't looking for excitement or drama or anything remotely strange. I was a student, drowning in papers, projects, and the low-grade existential dread that comes with trying to figure out what the hell you're doing with your life. I wanted peace. A cheap place to crash. Someone who'd pay half the rent and maybe split the Wi-Fi bill. That was it. That's when I met Adam. Or at least, the thing that called itself Adam. Back then, though, he seemed fine. Just a regular guy. Average height, average build, average smile. The kind of person you'd pass 100 times on campus and never remember. He had this slightly awkward laugh that came out in short bursts, like he was embarrassed to find anything funny, and I actually thought it was kind of endearing. Our first conversation was about garbage duty, if you can believe that. He knocked on my door the second night and said, "Hey, do you care if we alternate trash runs every week?" Totally normal. Totally human. I said sure, and he grinned like I'd just given him the winning lottery numbers. Looking back, I keep replaying that moment. The way his grin lingered a fraction too long. The way his eyes didn't quite match the warmth of his mouth. But at the time, I chalked it up to me being overly judgmental. I mean, who overanalyzes their roommate's smile on the first week? I wanted to be chill, easygoing. I wanted us to get along. And in the beginning, we did. We split bills, we swapped leftovers. We even had these weird late-night conversations when neither of us could sleep. He told me about his family out of state, though now I wonder if any of that was real. I told him about how I hated group projects and was already behind on rent. We bonded over cheap pizza and trashy horror movies, which is kind of ironic now. I even remember thinking, this might actually work out. The apartment itself was nothing special. Beige carpet, off-white walls, a kitchen that smelled faintly of grease no matter how much you scrubbed. The kind of place where you promise yourself you'll only stay for a year, maybe 2, before moving somewhere better. The windows rattled whenever the wind picked up, the heating system sounded like a dying animal, and the neighbors upstairs walked like they were practicing WWE moves. But at least it was mine. Mine and Adam's. Those first weeks were so ordinary it's almost painful to remember them now. Wake up, drag myself to class, half listen to lectures, come home, nod to Adam as he microwaved something that smelled like burnt plastic, then collapse into bed. Sometimes we'd joke about how pathetic our lives were. Future CEOs, Adam would mutter while stirring ramen. Future dropouts, I'd shoot back. We laughed. We laughed. It's strange how much weight laughter carries, looking back. Because now, when I think about it, I realize his laugh never changed. Always the same rhythm, always the same pitch, like he'd rehearsed it. I didn't notice then. I just thought he was consistent. But here's the thing. They say hindsight is 20/20, right? And I can't stop wondering how blind I must have been, living day after day with the thing across the hall from me. Because the first sign, the first crack in the mask, it was right there. And I laughed it off. At the time, it didn't even register. Just a little quirk, something I brushed aside with a shrug. But if I had paid attention, if I had trusted my gut, even for a second, maybe things wouldn't have gotten this far. The first red flag was waiting for me, and it came sooner than I realized. It started small, so small that if I'd written it down at the time, you'd probably laugh at me. But that's the thing about horror. It doesn't slam into your life all at once. It creeps in, drip by drip, until you're drowning in it. The first odd thing I noticed was the food. Or, more accurately, the lack of it. Adam never ate like a normal person. When we first moved in, I thought he was just weird about his diet. He'd hover in the kitchen, open the fridge, close it, open it again, like he was waiting for something that wasn't there. Once, I offered him some pizza. He stared at it for a second too long, like he was trying to remember how to react, then said, "No thanks. I already ate." Except I'd been home all evening. He hadn't touched anything. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. Some people are picky. Some people eat out. Hell, maybe he was one of those health nuts who lived off protein shakes. But then there were the nights, always around 3 a.m., when I'd hear him in the kitchen. Not cooking, not chewing, not even running the microwave. Just moving. Slow, deliberate sounds. Drawers opening. Cabinet doors creaking. The faintest scrape, like nails against metal. And then silence. I never actually caught him eating. Not once. The second thing was the mirrors. There was this full-length mirror in the hallway. One of those cheap Walmart ones nailed crooked to the wall. I didn't think much of it until I realized Adam never walked in front of it. He'd angle his body, skirt around it, like the mirror was hot to the touch. Once, I even caught him pausing at the edge of it, staring, not at himself, but at the reflection of my room behind him. His eyes looked wrong. Too dark. Too focused. "Hey," I said, half laughing, because what else do you say when your roommate's acting like he's afraid of his own reflection? "You good?" He jerked like I'd startled him. Then, here's the part that still makes my stomach twist. He blinked. But it wasn't a normal blink. It wasn't quick, unconscious. His eyelids closed slowly, deliberately, like he was mimicking me. Like he'd studied how people blink and decided to test it out. And then he smiled. Too wide. All teeth. Yeah, he said finally, stepping back. Just tired. I laughed it off. God help me, I laughed it off. The sleep thing was harder to ignore. I have insomnia, so I'm up at odd hours, scrolling through my phone or binging dumb YouTube videos. But Adam, he didn't sleep. At least not like the rest of us. Sometimes I'd hear him pacing the living room at 4 a.m., his footsteps too even, too measured, like he was practicing a routine. Other times I'd see him standing in the hallway, perfectly still, head tilted, as if he'd forgotten what he was supposed to do next. The first time I caught him, I joked, "Dude, you're gonna creep me out if you keep standing there like Slender Man." He just tilted his head the other way, didn't laugh, didn't move, just stared. And then he said, "You should get some rest." It was the way he said it, flat, toneless, but heavy, like a warning, like he knew exactly how long I'd been awake. By then, I started noticing all the little things. The way he'd sit on the couch for hours, perfectly still, no TV, no phone, no book, just sitting. The way he'd come into a room without making a sound, like the air didn't bother to move around him. The way his eyes lingered too long on my hands, my throat, my face. I asked him about it once. It was late, maybe 2 in the morning, and I was tired enough to be bold. He was in the kitchen again, staring at the open fridge like it owed him an explanation. "Hey man," I said, "do you ever actually eat?" He turned to me, slow and deliberate, and that smile crept across his face again. Too wide, too practiced. "I do," he said, "just not the same things as you." I tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. Okay, Hannibal Lecter. But he didn't laugh with me. He just kept staring, like he was waiting for something. That was the moment, right there. The fork in the road. If I had packed a bag and walked out, maybe things would be different. Maybe I wouldn't be here, begging you to believe me. But I stayed. Because I told myself I was being paranoid. Because I wanted proof. And so I started paying attention, writing things down, collecting details like puzzle pieces, thinking if I just fit them together, the picture would make sense. God, I wish it hadn't. Do you know what it feels like to scream the truth and no one listens? Because I do. I know it in my bones now. By the time I started telling people about Adam, it wasn't just weird eating habits or creepy smiles anymore. It was a whole pattern. He was up at all hours, moving around the apartment in ways that didn't make sense. He'd show up behind me without making a sound. He'd look at me like he was studying a language he hadn't quite learned yet. So I did what anyone would do. I reached out. I called my sister first. She's the practical one, the one who always knows what to say. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "You ever get the feeling your roommate's off?" She laughed. "Define off." I told her. Not everything, but enough. The food, the mirrors, the not sleeping thing, the smile. God, the smile. She was quiet for a second. Then she sighed, the way she does when she's already made up her mind. "You're stressed?" she said. "You've been working nights, right? Barely sleeping? Maybe you're just." "I'm not imagining it." I snapped, sharper than I meant to. "He's weird. He doesn't act human sometimes." There was another pause. When she spoke again, her voice had that careful softness people use around crazy relatives. "Okay, just be careful, but maybe take a break from horror stuff for a while. Yeah? Clear your head." I wanted to throw my phone across the room. I tried my friend Marcus next. He's into true crime, creepypastas, all the weird stuff. If anyone would take me seriously, it'd be him. "Dude," he said after I laid it all out. "That's creepy. But also, you're primed for this. You watch all those scary videos. You write that blog about urban legends." "I'm not making this up," I said. My voice cracked. "Something's wrong with him. I swear to God." "Yeah, but think about it," Marcus said. "If he was really some monster or whatever, you'd be dead already, right? He's probably just a night owl with social issues. I hung up on him. That night, Adam asked me, "Rough day?" I froze. We were in the kitchen again. He was leaning against the counter, too still, like he'd been waiting for me. "What?" I managed. "You've been on the phone a lot," he said, tilting his head. "Everything okay?" I tried to act normal. "Yeah, just catching up with people." He smiled, no teeth this time, but it was worse somehow. "Good. It's important to have someone to talk to." The way he said it made my skin crawl, like he was mocking me. After that, the gaslighting started. Little things. I'd come home to find my notes moved, pages missing. He'd act like he didn't hear the noises at night, even though I knew he was the one making them. Once, he left a plate of food on the counter, raw meat, glistening under the kitchen light, like he wanted me to see it. When I asked, he blinked at me like I'd spoken another language. "What plate?" he said. There was no plate. Not anymore. I thought I was losing my mind. I stopped calling people. What was the point? Nobody believed me. And every time I opened my mouth, I could feel Adam's eyes on me, like he knew exactly what I'd been saying. Like he enjoyed it. Do you know what it's like to live with someone who isn't human and have the whole world tell you you're crazy? To lie awake at night and feel them standing outside your door, just waiting? I do. And that was when he started watching me at night. The first undeniable event was coming. I didn't know it yet, but it was already on its way, like a train in the dark. I woke up to the sound of breathing. Not mine. It was slow and deliberate, the kind of breathing people do when they're trying to be quiet. For a second, I thought it was a dream, my brain conjuring something out of the endless tension, but then my eyes adjusted to the dark. And he was there. Adam was standing over me, his face inches from mine. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just stared up at him, my heart pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. His eyes weren't closed, but they weren't open either. They were fixed somewhere above me, glassy and vacant, like he was looking at something only he could see. "What the hell?" I whispered. His lips twitched, like he'd heard me. Then, slowly, painfully slowly, he straightened up and walked out of the room. Not like a normal person walks. His arms hung too loose at his sides, and his head tilted at an angle that would have snapped a normal neck. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, he was in the kitchen making coffee like nothing had happened. "You okay?" he asked, his tone almost cheerful. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to tell him I'd seen him standing over me like some predator about to pounce. Instead, I forced a smile. "Did you come into my room last night?" He paused just long enough to make me feel crazy. "No," he said, stirring sugar into his mug. "Why?" "I thought I saw someone," I muttered. He laughed softly. "Bad dreams." That's when I started locking my bedroom door. But the noises didn't stop. At first, they were just soft sounds in the hallway. The creak of the floorboards, the faint scrape of something along the wall. Then they got bolder. I'd hear him crawling, outside my room at 2 or 3 in the morning. Not walking, crawling. I could picture it in my head, his palms flat against the wood, knees dragging, face low to the ground. One night, I got up to use the bathroom. The hallway light was flickering, casting long, jerky shadows across the floor. And there he was, at the far end of the hall, down on all fours. He didn't move at first. Neither did I. Then he twisted his head toward me. Just his head, not his body, and smiled. I bolted back into my room and slammed the door. The next morning, everything was normal again. But that image stayed with me. Adam on the floor, grinning like an animal caught in the act. I started watching him more closely. He was careful about it, but I noticed the way he avoided his reflection. Not just mirrors, but anything reflective, windows, the back of a spoon, even the black screen of my laptop when it went idle. And then, one evening, I caught a glimpse. He was standing by the kitchen sink with his back to me. The window above the sink was dark enough to reflect him. Only it didn't. I could see the sink, the counter, the mug he was holding, but not him. For a second, I thought my brain was playing tricks on me. But then he shifted slightly, and the reflection flickered like a bad signal on an old TV. And something moved beneath his skin. I swear to God I saw it. Like a ripple under fabric. Like something was wearing him instead of him being a person. When he turned, I snapped my eyes away. "You've been quiet," he said, his voice low now. Not cheerful, not mocking, just low. I forced a laugh. Just tired. He studied me for a moment longer, then went back to his coffee. That was when I started thinking about proof. Not for my friends, not even for my sister. For me. I needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. I bought a small camera online, one of those cheap motion-activated ones. I told Adam it was for my security, but he just nodded and smiled. "It's good to feel safe," he said. The way he said it made me feel anything but. The first night I set it up, I barely slept. Every creak of the apartment made me jump. I lay there, staring at the little red light on the camera, praying it wouldn't catch anything and knowing deep down it would. Because Adam wasn't human. I didn't know what he was, but I was going to find out. And maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't kill me first. I had the proof. Or at least, I thought I did. The first morning after setting up the motion camera, I opened my laptop with trembling hands. My chest was tight. My heart was hammering. I was both terrified and thrilled. Because if the camera caught what I'd seen with my own eyes, Adam standing over me, crawling down the hall, his reflection flickering, then I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. I scrolled through the night's footage. Hours of nothing, the quiet hum of our apartment at 2 a.m. And then, movement. My breath caught. There he was. A tall, dark figure standing at the foot of my bed. His head tilted, his arms limp. Even through the grainy lens, I could see the unnatural stillness, the wrongness of him. I hit pause. My whole body was shaking. I finally had proof. I texted my sister immediately. "Got it. Finally. I'm not crazy. Watch this." She FaceTimed me seconds later. "Okay," she said. "Show me." I turned my phone to the laptop screen, hit play again, and the footage was gone. I stared, stunned. The screen flickered, and all I saw was me, alone in my bed, tossing and turning like a restless sleeper. No Adam, no figure, no evidence at all. "What am I looking at?" my sister asked. "No," I muttered. "It was here. It was just here. Maybe you dreamed it." I wanted to scream. Instead, I hung up. That day, Adam was unusually quiet. He didn't tease me or make small talk. He just watched me. Whenever I looked up, his eyes would flick away a moment too late. That night, I tried again, this time with my phone, hidden on the dresser. I fell asleep clutching a kitchen knife under my pillow. I woke at 3:17 a.m. to the sound of whispering. It wasn't words I could understand, just a soft hiss, like static. I opened my eyes. The room was empty, but the whispering didn't stop. I sat up, scanning the dark. "Adam." Silence. I checked my phone first thing that morning. The recording had stopped at 2 a.m. The file was corrupted, an unreadable string of random characters. I deleted it. I didn't even know why. Maybe because deep down, I felt like someone, or something, was watching me watch it. The more I tried to prove Adam wasn't human, the worse it got. The cameras malfunctioned. Files disappeared. Footage distorted into static the moment I tried to show anyone. My friends stopped replying to my texts. My sister started ghosting my calls. Even the one friend who had humored me, Melissa, finally said, "I think you're burning out. You should see someone." I couldn't blame them. I was starting to sound unhinged even to myself. But Adam was changing. He stopped pretending to eat. He stopped pretending to sleep. He stopped pretending to be human. One night, I woke up to find my bedroom door wide open even though I'd locked it. I stood in the hall holding my knife, calling his name. No answer. Then, from the living room, his voice. "You don't need to be afraid." It didn't sound like him. It was deeper, slower, echoing like two people speaking at once. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. "You're safe here," the voice said. I backed into my room and shut the door. When I checked the footage from that night, 3 cameras, all pointed at different angles. They all showed me sitting up in bed, staring at a door that stayed shut. Adam wasn't there. Nothing was there. That was the moment I realized. I was completely alone. Or worse, not alone, but trapped with something that didn't want to be seen. I started to wonder if this was bigger than Adam, bigger than me. Like there was a rule, an invisible hand making sure no one ever got proof of what they were living with. Maybe others had tried and failed. Maybe there were hundreds of people out there with roommates, like mine, all dismissed, all quietly erased. Maybe that was the point. I stopped trying to film him after that, because every time I hit play and saw nothing, it felt like a piece of me was slipping away, like he was reaching inside me and rewriting my memories. I wasn't just losing my mind. I was losing my reality. And by then, leaving wasn't an option. I didn't know how I knew, but I did. The moment I tried to leave, the moment I tried to run, something terrible would happen. Adam wouldn't let me go. And I know, he was waiting for me to try. I couldn't take it anymore. Days blurred into nights into sleepless hours of staring at my bedroom door, waiting for it to creak open. Every sound was amplified. Every shadow felt alive. And through it all, Adam, if that was even his name, moved through the apartment like a quiet predator, his footsteps soft but deliberate, like a spider on glass. That night, I didn't lock my door. I sat in the living room instead, lights off, the knife on my lap. The glow of my phone screen the only light. My hands were trembling, but steady enough to hold the blade. When he finally emerged from his room, he didn't look surprised to see me waiting. "You've stopped sleeping," he said. His voice was flat, but there was a strange lilt beneath it, like 2 tones playing at once. "That's not healthy." "Sit down," I said. He tilted his head. "Why?" "Because we're going to talk." Something flickered across his face then, an expression almost human but not quite. The smile was too slow, too wide, like a mask being stretched over a skull. He sat across from me, folding his long fingers together. I tightened my grip on the knife. "Who are you?" He blinked. Once, twice, but the blinks weren't normal. His eyelids closed horizontally first, then vertically, like a camera shutter misfiring. "You know who I am," he said softly. "No," I whispered. I don't know anything." He leaned forward. The shadows shifted over his face, making him look skeletal. "Why do you keep pretending you don't know me?" My stomach turned. The way he said it, it wasn't a question. It was an accusation. "I've never met you before," I said. "You're my roommate." "That's it. That's what you tell yourself." He tilted his head again, and for a second his jaw unhinged just slightly, a subtle stretch like a snake testing its mouth. "But you were chosen. You've always been chosen." "Chosen for what?" He laughed, but the sound was dry and empty, like paper tearing. "For this. For me. I want you out of my apartment." My voice cracked. "Get out. You think this is your apartment?" His voice dropped, deeper now, the echo more pronounced. "You think you're safe in here?" He leaned even closer, and I could see the faint ripple of movement under his skin, like something shifting beneath a layer of water. "You're inside me," he said, "and I'm inside you." I pushed back against the couch, gripping the knife so hard my palm ached. "Stop," I hissed. "Stop talking like that. You think I'm the first?" His lips barely moved. "There were others before you. They thought they were chosen, too. They thought they could leave. They thought someone would believe them. What happened to them?" I whispered. His smile widened, showing too many teeth. They're gone. I swallowed hard. Gone where? He tilted his head again, the motion sharp, bird-like. Where you'll go, if you don't stop resisting. Something in his tone, calm, almost tender, was worse than a scream. I forced myself to breathe. You're lying. You're just trying to scare me. He laughed again, low and hollow. You're already scared. He reached out suddenly, fast enough to make me flinch, and tapped his long finger against the blade of my knife. Do you think that will work? I didn't answer. It won't, he whispered. You can't cut what isn't there. I stared at him, my heart pounding. What are you? He looked at me for a long moment, and for the first time since we'd met, he dropped the mask completely. His face seemed to shift, not like melting, but like sliding out of focus, features rearranging, his eyes hollowing into dark pits. His voice was 1,000 whispers layered into one. I am what comes when no one's watching. A chill went through me, so deep it felt like my bones were vibrating. You don't belong here, I said, my voice shaking. You do, he said. You've always belonged here. You just forgot. I stood, the knife shaking in my hand. Get out. He stood too. He towered over me now, taller than he'd ever seemed, his shadow stretching across the walls like a spider's legs. You can't make me leave, he said, because you're already mine. I'm not yours. You are. You've always been. For the first time, my fear gave way to rage. Then why are you pretending? I shouted. Why play the roommate? Why act human? His smile cracked wider, splitting his face from ear to ear. Because you needed it. Because you wouldn't survive the truth. But now you're ready. I stepped back, but my heel hit the couch. There was nowhere to go. He leaned down until his face was inches from mine. His breath was cold, like stepping into a freezer. If you try to leave, he murmured, I'll show them everything. What? Your secrets. Your memories. Your fears. Every ugly thing you've hidden. I'll pour them out like blood, and no one will look at you the same. My hand trembled. Why me? He straightened, his shadow swallowing the room. Because you looked at me. Because you saw me. Because now I can't let you go. I wanted to scream, but the sound stuck in my throat. I don't want this, I whispered. It's too late, he said. Stay with me, or you'll vanish like the rest. He reached out a hand, fingers too long, too pale, and waited. I stared at it, my heart beating so hard it hurt. And that's when I realized I'd crossed a line. There was no more pretending. Something had to break. I couldn't breathe in that apartment anymore. After the confrontation, after hearing his voice fracture into something inhuman, I knew staying meant death, or worse. So I did what anyone would do. I packed. It wasn't some dramatic movie montage. My hands shook so badly I dropped half the things I tried to stuff into my backpack. Clothes, my phone charger, my wallet. That was all I needed. My lease, my books, my old keepsakes. They suddenly felt like anchors. Things tying me down to a place I had to leave. I remember glancing at his door as I zipped the bag. It was closed, silent. But silence in that apartment meant nothing. He could be behind it. He could be under the floorboards. He could be anywhere. The plan was simple. Wait until 3 a.m., when he usually disappeared into whatever corner of the night he claimed as his own, and leave without a sound. Except, when I turned the knob, when the front door finally creaked open, he was standing in the hallway. Not inside. Outside. Like he knew. Like he'd been waiting for me. Going somewhere. His smile was sharp, too deliberate. I slammed the door in his face and stumbled back, my heart hammering so loud I thought it would wake the whole building. I didn't even breathe until the peephole showed nothing but an empty corridor. And when I opened the door again, gone. That was the first time I realized I wasn't dealing with a person at all. People don't vanish between blinks. I tried again the next night. This time I made it down the stairs, my sneakers barely touching the steps, clutching my bag so hard my knuckles ached. I pushed out into the cold street and started walking faster, until I broke into a run. But no matter how far I went, no matter how many blocks I put between us, when I turned a corner, he was there, standing under a streetlight, smiling, leaning against a bus stop, hands in his pockets, sitting on a bench, waiting, not following me, waiting for me. I didn't even know how to scream anymore. By the time I made it to the police station, I was a mess. Hair plastered to my forehead, sweat soaking my clothes. I begged them, stammering about my roommate, how he wasn't human, how he was stalking me. They gave me the same look my friends had, the same tight, polite smile people reserve for lunatics. One officer patted my shoulder and said, "Maybe you should sleep, kid. Stress'll do this to you." I wanted to drag them outside and force them to look. But of course, when I spun around, he wasn't there. That was his game. He wanted me to look insane. He wanted me to be alone. Even the landlord brushed me off when I demanded he break the lease. "You signed a contract," he said, "and your roommate's rent is always on time. You're lucky to have someone reliable." Reliable. The word made me want to vomit. So I tried something different. I booked a motel 2 towns over, paid in cash, didn't tell a soul where I was going. The paranoia ate at me all the way there. Every driver on the road felt like him in disguise. Every shadow in the rearview mirror stretched too long. But when I finally locked the door of that cheap motel room, I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd escaped. I collapsed onto the bed, shaking with exhaustion, the hum of the broken air conditioner almost soothing. My eyes closed for what felt like seconds, and when I opened them, he was sitting in the chair across from the bed, smiling, like he'd been there the whole time. No matter where I went, he was already there. Do you know what it feels like to live like that? To carry the weight of knowing you can never run far enough, fast enough? If you've ever had a roommate like this, you know exactly what I mean. Maybe you thought you were crazy, too. Maybe you convinced yourself it was just stress. But I know the truth. And I'm telling you now, so you can't say no one warned you. Because once they choose you, there's no escape. I didn't want it to end like this. For weeks, maybe months, time stopped meaning anything. I lived in a waking nightmare. No one believed me. No one helped. Every time I tried to run, he was already there, smiling like he'd written the script of my life before I'd even lived it. And maybe he had. The breaking point wasn't dramatic. It wasn't fire and lightning and screams in the night. It was me, sitting on the floor of that apartment, staring at the knife I'd bought from a hardware store. My hands shook so violently I could barely hold it. I knew I had 2 choices: kill him or give up completely. The apartment was silent. Too silent. I whispered to myself, "This is it. This is the only way out." And then, as if he'd been listening the whole time, the bedroom door creaked open. He stepped out, barefoot, pale in the dim light. His head tilted slightly, like a predator studying prey that had finally accepted its role. His smile spread, too wide for his face. "You've finally figured it out," he said. But his voice wasn't a voice. It was layered, distorted, like dozens of mouths speaking at once. There are only ever 3 endings. Kill me, join me, or be devoured. I tried to raise the knife, but my arm felt like lead. My body didn't want to move. He'd gotten inside me somehow. My nerves, my thoughts, my fear. "You can't win," he whispered. "No one ever does." My mind raced. Kill him? How do you kill something that isn't even human? Accept him? Become like him? Or let him consume me completely? I thought about all the warnings I'd ignored, all the red flags I'd laughed off. The way he didn't blink right. The way he stood over me while I slept. The way every camera, every piece of proof, failed the moment I tried to show someone else. Maybe I was already lost. But then I remembered something. Something small, but sharp as glass. He wanted me to believe I had no choice. He thrived on isolation. on me being alone. If I couldn't kill him, maybe I could expose him. Maybe dragging him into the light, even if it meant destroying myself, was enough. I don't know where the strength came from, but I lunged. Not to stab him, not to kill him, but to hold him down and scream so loud the whole building would hear. His skin felt wrong under my hands. Too cold, too smooth, like stretched wax over something twitching underneath. He didn't fight back, not really. He just smiled, whispering, "This won't matter. They won't believe you." And maybe he was right, because when the neighbors finally burst in, the knife clattering to the floor, I was the one crouched in the hallway, covered in blood. But it wasn't his blood. It was mine. Or maybe it was. I don't know how much of what happened next was real. The police reports, the hospital stay, the way my friends looked at me like I was broken beyond repair. Every reflection, every shadow, every corner of every room. He's still there, watching, smiling. Maybe I killed him. Maybe I didn't. Maybe killing him just means becoming what he was. All I know is that he told me I couldn't win. And maybe he was right. So if you're listening to this, if you hear my voice, if you ever find yourself staring at your roommate and realizing something about them isn't human, believe it. Don't laugh it off like I did. Don't ignore the signs. Because if you don't hear from me again, check your roommate. If you've made it this far, thank you. You've heard everything, the parts no one else would listen to. But I need you to do one thing for me. Don't scroll past this. Not yet. Especially if you live with someone. Especially if something about them doesn't feel right. I've told you what happened. At least, I think I have. But I don't know if any of it matters anymore. I don't know if I won. Or if he's still here, sitting in the corner of my room, waiting for me to finish talking. And maybe that's why I'm reaching out to you. Because this isn't just my story. I've read things online. Little fragments buried on obscure forums, anonymous posts that disappear after a few hours. Stories like mine. People with roommates who aren't human, neighbors who don't blink, co-workers whose faces change when no one else is looking. I'm not the first. I won't be the last. So I'm asking you, what would you have done? Do you think I'm crazy? Or do you think you'd recognize it before it was too late? Tell me in the comments. Tell me your theories. Tell me if you've seen anything like this. Because if I'm not insane, then someone else is living this right now. And if you're one of them, if you're hearing this and realizing your roommate isn't what they seem, don't wait. Don't ignore the signs. Don't let them know you're onto them. Because once you do, it's already too late.